friendship could be. My Little Pony. Until you all shared its magic with me. Big adventure, tons of fun. A beautiful heart, faithful and strong. Sharing kindness, it's an easy feat. And magic makes it all complete. You have mine. Did you know you're all my very best friends? This meteor shower tonight's gonna be amazing.
So they've been preparing for this rare meteor shower that they're going to watch, and Spike has gathered everything together.
And that is why you are my #1 assistant.
Get used to that phrase. You're going to be hearing it a lot in this episode.
I want to bring the Astronomical Astronomer's Almanac to all things astronomy. You know, that really old big blue book on stars, moons, planets, the universe?
Right. Check.
The downside to being a baby dragon.
What's taking my #1 assistant so long?
Yeah, I'm a sweet talker.
And a #1 assistant.
Good lord.
Wow, Twilight, you're lucky to have such a rad assistant.
Close enough.
Isn't he simply amazing? Little spiky wakey, who knew that big ferocious dragon started off so cutesy-wootsy? Had to make this little bow tie for you.
Geez, guys, laying it on a little thick, aren't you?
Twilight, your turn.
Spike, that's enough.
All right, that's enough.
Hi, Bonbon.
Sweet dreams, #1 assistant.
Seriously, Twilight. Later that night, Twilight hears a noise outside. I'm getting Labyrinth flashbacks, especially since it turns out to be an owl. Anyway, he returns Twilight's scroll, which had been blown out the window. Twilight invites him to stay, so he makes himself at home on what I assume is a coat rack. The next morning, Spike has overslept.
Don't worry.
But my morning chores.
It's okay. Owlowiscious did them for you.
And of course, now is when he finds out about the owl and he feels threatened.
I have to go out, so why don't you introduce yourself to Owlowiscious? He's in the library.
Whoa! Dude, that's creepy.
I was about to say that.
I'm Spike. Spike, you know, assistant #1.
You do know that owls don't actually talk, right?
Who? I thought your name was Owlicious.
I guess not. This is like a who's on first routine that never gets past the first name.
All you need to know is that I'm #1 and you're #2. Got it? I won't let him have my job if it's the last thing I do.
Ominous.
What a fantastical, fluffalicious, feathery little friend!
Cue Owlowiscious getting exactly the same attention as Spike was earlier. You'd think they'd be a little more aware of what they're doing.
Maybe Spike feels threatened or worried that Owlicious will replace him.
Spike knows he can't be replaced.
You give Spike far too much credit, Twilight.
I better step it up and make sure that Twilight and Owlowiscious know that I'm still #1.
So cue a bunch of scenarios where Spike is frantic to show that he's still helpful, but Owlowiscious beats him to the punch.
Shoot!
Including Twilight's quill breaking. Not like I'm an expert on quills or anything, but couldn't you just cut off the tip and cut a new one and keep using the same feather? What? But anyway, Spike goes everywhere trying to find a quill for Twilight.
But the store is called Quills and Sofas. You only sell 2 things.
Sorry, Junior. All out of quills until Monday. Need a sofa?
Why is that so funny? Speaking of which, Pinkie Pie-isms incoming.
Ah, here it is! A quince! A quail? A quilt! A quesadilla? A quiche!
A quill!
Nope, sorry. A lot of quills.
At least he got some comfort food out of it. Now he's trying to get a feather from a chicken. You know, you could have done that with the quail earlier.
Spike to the rescue!
But of course he comes back to find that Owlowiscious beat him to the punch once again.
Owlowiscious gave me one of his feathers to use as a quill.
I think I'll just, finish up the rest of my chores, because I can just stay up all night and finish.
You're not helping your case any. Damn, Twilight, just throw a bucket of ice water on him and be done with it. But this is Twilight, so books are serious business. Anyway, she found out about the book that Spike accidentally burned earlier, thanks to, of course, Owlowiscious. So Spike thinks that Owlowiscious set him up on purpose, so he decides to get back at him. At least he's dressed for the occasion. Anyway, he steals one of Rarity's cat toys and tries to make it look like a real mouse that Owlowiscious mutilated and left on the floor. But of course he gets caught in the act.
terrible, terrible bird. He must be punished. Right?
Best face award. But anyway, Twilight lets him have it.
This is not the Spike I know and love.
Yeah, still creepy.
She doesn't love me anymore.
Aw, that's not what she said, Spike. But he runs away.
Could it get any worse? I guess that's a yes.
But things are looking up when he discovers a cave full of gems. Not considering that they're probably there because someone was hiding them.
You don't scare me! Ha! How'd you like that?
Oh, Spike, you're so adorable. Owlowiscious to the rescue.
Spike, over here!
They all make it out of the cave, but it's too dark for the rest of them to see, so Owlowiscious guides them to safety.
I thought you didn't need me anymore. And that you didn't love me anymore.
It's just that sometimes I need some help at night. I can't ask you to stay up late. You're a baby dragon, and you need your rest.
That's a good point. Despite his size, it's easy to forget that Spike is a baby with how he's able to hold his own verbally with any of the ponies. Hell, sometimes he's smarter than they are. But physically, he's still developing and there are limits to what he can do. I'm actually kind of glad this was cleared up. Twilight throws around the word baby dragon a lot, but he doesn't really seem like a baby, so I guess that explains it. So what it comes down to is that Owlowiscious was meant to work the night shift. Even though that's not really what he was doing earlier, but oh well.
I'm sorry, Twilight. I never should have been so jealous.
And I'm sorry too, Spike. I should have been more sensitive.
I'm also glad that Twilight admits to being partially at fault. I have to admit, a lot of the times when Twilight does something that rubs me the wrong way, she almost always owns up to it later.
Hey, Spike.
And in an interesting turn of events, Spike ends up being the one to write the letter to Princess Celestia.
So from here on out, I promise that I, Spike, will...
And so ends Owl's Well That Ends Well. This episode is okay. It's pretty much a paint by numbers, don't be jealous kind of story, and it's pretty predictable, at least by this show's standards. There are other episodes that are predictable, but I usually don't mind as long as it's a fun ride. But this episode is kind of bland, and I think they're a lot more blatant than they need to be with how all of the main six dote on Spike, and then suddenly ignore him in favor of doting on Owlowiscious, down to Rarity making the exact same tie again. They just seem really lacking in self-awareness to the point where it kind of comes across as lazy writing. I know this is a kid's show, but there have been other episodes that handled a lesson like this in a more interesting way. Hell, we even see another dragon, but it's exactly the same dragon from Dragonshy with the colors changed. But it's far from being all bad. This scene towards the end where Twilight and Spike have their little heart-to-heart is actually a great scene. With how much time these two spend together, we don't really see their relationship spelled out like this very often, and it's really heartwarming. I'd go so far as to say that it even makes up for the rest of the episode. And it has its moments. The scene with Pinkie Pie trying to help Spike is great, and just about everything Spike does is adorable. As for Owlowiscious, he's kind of a fun character, though he doesn't really get to do very much other than be creepy. And predictably save the day in the end. The episode does a pretty good job of making him seem ominous, though a lot of that is just chalked up to him being an owl and doing owl things. And he's another one of those characters who I was convinced that the writers would forget about, but then he ends up showing up again in season 2, and several times after that. So yeah, not a great episode, but not offensive or anything, it's just okay. Next up is, woo, Party of One. See you then.
And now the punch is